All right, for this session, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on from what we did in the previous video where I showed you how to do a subassembly of this universal joint. And so we took a copy of the joint and we took some pins, the connecting crank rod, and we put all those together. So today what we're going to do is we're going to actually bring that part into an assembly to do the whole universal joint together. So when we start off with this, we can either go right here to assembly, or we can go up here to new, just like we did before, right? We got new here, and we got file new here. So we've got new all over the place. This time I'm just going to grab an assembly from here. And when it opens up, if you notice today, my background is white. And the reason that I made my background white is for you to be able to see it better. You should keep your background that gray. Autodesk did a lot of research on what's the best on your eyes, and that blue-gray is best on your eyes, and it doesn't fatigue your eyes nearly as much. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off from the inside out with this. And what I mean by the inside out is that we're going to start with our universal shaft subassembly in there first. And what we're going to do is we're going to build this out. And the reason that we're going to do this, if I go home and I open this up, I open up one that's already been completed here. So when this comes open and you see this, the problem here is that the geometry has to be very precise. So to make this happen, all of this math and geometry have to work. This center and this center and the centers that go in here, the shafts that go in here, they all have to meet just right for this to work the way that we're going to do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start on our own and get this started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring in that piece. Now, what we got to be careful of is up here, we've got place component. Make sure that you're not going to the content center. The content center is really, really neat. The content center has a lot of nuts and bolts and screws and all sorts of really cool things, but we don't need that right now. All we have to do is click on that place icon, and we're going to pick up not the base. You would think that we would start with the base, but we're not going to start with that base. What we're going to start with is we're going to start with this universal shaft 2. That's the universal piece that I made yesterday. That's subassembly. This is what we call subassembly. So I'm going to place this in here, and I'm going to hit escape. I could put multiple ones in here at a time, but I hit my escape key, and that stops that from going in. Now, the first thing in any assembly is that we want to take the component and we want to, the base component, we want to ground it. For right now, this is not going to be a grounded component, but because of what we're going to be adding to it, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to ground this, just like I did yesterday. Now remember, we can go here, notice that the grounded icon, you can just see that little thumbtack right there. You could do it there, or you could do it right here. You could right click over here in the browser bar and ground it there. All right, so what do we do next? Well, we're going to work again from the inside out. So this is our shaft that's going in here. And this is kind of like the drive shaft of a rear wheel drive vehicle. So a truck, a car, whatever the case might be. This is kind of like the drive shaft. All right, so let's go up and let's place another component. Now, kind of the neat thing here is it gives you this preview so you know what you're looking for. So the next piece we've got to bring in 2 connectors. So I'm going to bring in a connector here and a connector over here. All right, now notice I can continue to bring things in. I'm just going to hit escape. Now, in another video, we've seen that you can actually take and you can do mates and all that type of thing. What I'm going to show you again are some inserts. I think that this is a little bit easier way of taking a look at it. So I'm going to free rotate this. And this blank area up here without any holes has to go out front. So I'm just going to rotate this a little bit here. And again, we have our X, Y, and Z axes. Notice how the icon changes. That's X, Y, Z. That's just going around. That goes around the X. This goes around the Y, right? And the circle one goes around the Z. So we're just going to pop that way. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to free rotate this one as well, just to get that kind of where I want it to be, and where I want it to be kind of this way. And again, you don't have to make it perfect where it needs to go. We're just going to get it kind of close. All right, so we're going to go ahead here, and I'm going to do an insert, okay? And I'm going to insert this, and watch what I do here. So I go up here. This is going to insert all the way here, but I don't want it to go there. If I'm lucky enough, oh, there it goes. If I'm lucky enough, I just saw it. There we go. Notice how I can pick up that inner edge right there, and you can hear that little pop. That little pop means that it's going to sit in there. Now we have a gap in here that is a 10,000th of an inch. So we're going to have to put them as 0.05. Oops, go back here. We're going to go 0.05 for our offset. Now notice how that just jumped out of the way there. I'm going to apply that, and I'll show you that what I just did here in a second, because I'm going to change the orientation a bit. And again, we're going to go in here, and we're going to go here, and I'm just, there it is. See, I can just sort of get that other edge right there. And again, I'm going to go 0.05, right, and apply that. So I'm going to cancel this out just for a second. I'm going to take you to the top view, and notice that the offset centered those connecting blocks up. All right, go back to here. All right, now notice, let's go back here. Notice that this is Inventor, what I call Inventor magic. All right, if we were SpongeBob, we'd just have a blast with this. Imagination, right? So we're going to bring this in here. We've got this joint ready to go. And so what we know that in reality, we're going to have to put some pins in there to hold it into place. So let's go ahead and let's get a couple of pins here. We're going to go ahead and bring 1, 2, 3, and 4 pins in. Okay, because we're going to need to pop those suckers on in there. And we're going to grab that. We're going to do an insert. And I'm going to insert. Let's just spin this around and insert that into here. And I'm going to flip this, okay? And I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to insert this into there, and I'm going to apply that. And I'm going to just go to the home view here, and I'm going to insert this into that and apply, and the last one here, and apply that. So now that looks a little bit more realistic. If we look at it from the top view, we can see that something's holding that connecting block in, right? Okay, so what's the next thing that comes in? Well, with the next thing, if we take a look over here, we know that we're going to have more of these. We're going to have a joint here and a joint there, and we're going to have 4 more pins come in. Okay, so let's go ahead here, and let's go ahead and place. And we're going to bring the joints in. So I'm going to bring one in over here, one in over here. And because I don't want to bring in too many parts at a time, I'm going to wait on the pins. And I'm going to go ahead and spin this one joint piece. Nope, don't want to do that. I'm going to spin this one piece here, just spin that around, kind of get that oriented as to where I want it to be. And we're good to go there. I'm going to do the same thing over here with this, and I could have just spun that around. It would have been fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our insert again. So this time, I'm going to insert that. Notice how I got the bottom edge of that and here. And again, still 0.05 for our offset. See how that just pops up like that? We're going to apply that. And again here, right there. See how I got that bottom red ring there, and right there, I'm going to pop that 0.05 and apply. All right. So now we've got this in here, and what I told you before, we need to go ahead and we need to bring some pins in. Now this has, this was done incorrectly. So it looks like, well, maybe not. No, that's supposed to spin around there. That's good. Okay, that's good. All right, so we got to go ahead, and you can see here that when you expand the children over here, you can see all the different things that happen. Those are the constraints on there. And so if we needed to, you can see that the universal, well, that has all of these things in here. That has insert. So if we look at insert 5 right there, insert 5 is also right here, right? So we can see how that works. And if we needed to, we could go in and we could, go into here to the insert, and we could change, and we could do it as an offset or whatever the case might be. All right, so that's where we're going to edit things. And so it really makes it very simple. I'm going to go ahead and collapse. We do what we call collapse the children. All right, so I'm going to bring that all together and bring that together and that, so we don't have so much in our browser bar over here. Let's go ahead and place some more pins. Okay, so we're going to bring those pins in. We got 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to go ahead and insert those. We're going to try and get that bottom. There we go. See how I got that bottom red ring there? Oh, nope, not working. There, nope, not working. So we're going to cancel that. Let's go ahead and do this pin again. Insert that. Let's go to the top ring here, and then let's flip it that way. We're going to do it that way. Okay. And we're going to apply that. And then here's really easy. We just flip this cube. We go over the cube, click on that corner right there, and look at that. Pop that in. Make sure you apply each time. If you don't apply, then this will not work. Okay. We're going to go back to home, or you can hit F6. Okay, and so now you can see that this is pretty much coming together, isn't it? We're getting very close. We've got this whole assembly done right here. And you could actually count this as a sub-assembly if you really wanted to. That could possibly be a sub-assembly there. Okay, so now remember, we've got this thing tacked down right here. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring that base in, which is probably what a lot of us would have done when I first did this the very first time. That's what I did. So I'm going to bring this base in, and whoa, look at that. It's on its side. Well, geez, should it really be on its side? No, we don't want it to be on its side. So what we're going to do here, and this is really pretty cool, is that I'm going to go into the IPT, and I'm going to change the orientation of this. Now, we could change the orientation here. I could go over here to the front view. I could rotate this down. I could come over here and notice that bottom is upside down here. And I could go to this corner, and I could right click on that corner, and I could set current view to home and fix the distance. And then every time I hit that home button, it would come back to that orientation. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to do this the correct way. So what I'm going to do here is that I can go into the IPT without necessarily going in and going to File, Open, and going to the IPT. Now that is one way I could do this, but if I just double click, see how it makes the rest of these kind of opaque right here, and it brings this up. And notice over here that all of this is grayed out, but you can see all the things here for this. So this is opening up directly the IPT. That's why Inventor is called an adaptive program, okay? So what I know here is that this was drawn on the XY plane instead of the XZ plane. So what I have to do is switch that to the XZ plane. So very simply, what I'm going to do is expand origin here, and I'm going to expand the first extrusion. I'm going to go to Sketch 1 because Sketch 1 was the very beginning of this. And I'm going to right click on Sketch 1, and I am going to redefine Sketch 1. And what I'm going to do is go up here to the XZ, and I'm going to click on the XZ, and lo and behold, look what happens. It does that, and then you can go ahead and save, and it puts it right back. Okay, so I'm going to return here, and so now I have this set, but right here, this can move around. So I don't want this to move around. This is what I want to be solid, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ground this base, and I'm going to unground that shaft. Okay, so what we're going to do here now is I'm going to orient some things, and I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to do, now this is not going to be an insert. What I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to mate, okay? I'm going to mate the center of this hole, and I can rotate this around maybe a little bit here. Hold on here, just hit that wrong button. Let's move this just a tad bit more that way. So you got to be able to see the inside. Now, if I'm not careful, I can actually get the center of this. You don't want a green dot. The green dot is like for a ball and hinge. You can spin a ball and socket joint, rather. A ball and socket, so that'll just spin that around. I don't want that. I want to get the center of this, of that hole. So that's the center. That is not an insert. Notice that it's a mate, okay? And I want to mate that, again, don't get that green dot. I want to mate it to the center of this. Notice how I just touched the inside edge of that. All right, so I'm going to mate those two together. Whoops, look at that. That looks kind of odd, but that's what I want. So I'm going to apply that, and hopefully this will work as well. Sometimes we have to orient this, but I'm going to mate that, and I'm going to spin this around here into the center here. Whoa, look at that. So look how that the funkiness of that really occurred, right? So I'm going to cancel that, and let's go to home here. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this over, and notice this is still grounded, and that's why I've got to unground that. I thought that we had done that, so that's ungrounded, and my base should be grounded. Okay, let's go back here. Let's Control Z this. Okay, I'm going to ground this base back here, and I'm going to unground this. I thought we had done that. All right, that will make this work better. So I'm going to go to Constraint. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to touch that edge inside cylinder right there. I'm going to touch this edge inside cylinder there. I'm going to put those together and I'm going to apply. I'm going to get that inside of that cylinder there, that hole, and I'm going to get this inside here. And look, it doesn't want to move. It doesn't like something that I did. So what I'm going to do is cancel that, and I'm going to reorient these. And a lot of times what happens is that it doesn't like how you orient things. So what I've got to do here is kind of manipulate this a little bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily ground this part. I'm going to bring this up. I'll look at this from the top view. Because there's so many moving pieces and parts in here, you really have to kind of orient things correctly before you get them to do the things that you want them to do. All right, so now I can go back here. I can unground this part and pull that into here a little bit. And I'm going to go back to my home view and spin this around, and let's see if we can't get this to go in and to mate. And there it goes. So we needed to orient it a little bit. We're going to apply that together, okay? And now you can see, you know, from this view right here. Now that doesn't exactly work because this still goes back and forth there, right? So how are we going to take care of that? Well, what we're going to do here is we're just going to apply a simple mate. So I'm going to mate this face, come back over here and mate that face. So I'm going to apply that together there. So now when we take a look at this, you can see that that all works really, really good. Now the neat part here is that this thing spins round and round, and this is what, and you can see that the joint pieces are actually moving, right? You can see how they're moving. So let's add a couple of more pieces to this. Let's add the crank handle, which is going to be which is going to make things a lot easier. So we're going to go in here, crank handle. And what's going to need is we're going to add 2 crank handles here. We're going to add one on each end. And we're going to escape out of that. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those in. So we're going to use an insert tool again. And actually, before we do that, again, we've talked about how you got to orient things. So we've got to free rotate, and we're going to rotate this around so that we get that oriented to the direction that we want to go. And then we're going to do the same thing here. See, I didn't have to unclick. I just clicked over here on the other one. And so we get those 2 oriented where they need to go. All right, now we can go into our constraint. We're going to go, we're going to do an insert. And in reality, what we would actually do here is we would have this to be an offset. We don't want this to be 0 here. If we really designed this correctly and we were engineers and we were designing this, we would make sure that there would be a clearance fit there. We don't want that handle to grind against the side and create friction there. So we want to have something that is going to give us some space there. Okay, so we're going to apply that. We're going to take this one and we're going to apply that, and we're going to apply that together. Okay, so now it's really coming together. And let's go ahead and crank the handle, and nothing happens. Wow. What are we going to do? Okay, so we can do a number of different things here. The easiest thing, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this because easy is good. And what would be aesthetically more pleasing would be to make these 2 go straight up and down. But we're just going to go ahead and apply an angle constraint. Now there's 3 different types of angles here. Okay, this one being an explicit reference vector, this one being a unit directed vector, and this one being directed. So we're just going to go directed angle, and we're going to leave it at 0 degrees, and we're going to pop those 2 together. Okay, and then we're also going to do the same thing here. We're going to just take those 2 and apply that. Now, what does that allow us to do? It allows us to spin this round and round. Really pretty cool, right? All right, so we know in reality we don't have any pins going through here, so we're going to go ahead and bring in those pins. We're almost finished here. All right, so we've got this crank rod. We're going to bring 2 of those in. We need 1 for each end. All right, and we're going to go ahead and put those in with an insert. So we're going to pop that into here, and we're going to flip that, and we're going to apply, and we're going to come back over here to this corner here, and we're going to insert that into there, and we're going to apply. Now, again, if we were to do this correctly, what we would do is, right now those pins are not moving. If I had something on there and as I crank this around, that pin's not moving. That pin is not moving at all. This is just, again, inventor magic right now. And just like what I showed you with this shaft yesterday that we actually had in there. So what I can do in here is I can just select, notice there the crank rod, right? And what I'm going to do is, and this is kind of a little bit confusing. You can see the crank rod there. So really with this one, probably what I want to do is I want to go ahead and open, and I'm going to open that that connecting rod. Okay, so I'm going to open that up. Oh, that's the other one. So we already have. So we have that going through there, and actually, yeah. So we put that in yesterday, and we put that in. So my guess is right now is that maybe that. Let's see. No, we didn't put that in there. Not in this one anyway. All right, so we're going to go in here. We're going to go to work plane. And in work plane, what we're going to do is we're going to expand the origin here. Okay, we're going to bring that bar down. and we're just going to put an XZ plane in there. You know, we're playing on XZ. And that's not working. So let's go back to what we were going to do here before with the connecting rod. Let's see what we got open up here. We want the crank rod. That's why, not the connecting rod. So we want to open up the crank rod. That was. All right, so we bring in the crank rod. Let's go to plane, expand origin. I was wondering why that was doing that. We can just put an XZ, or we can put a YZ. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and put an XZ in. Remember, just grab the blue a little bit, just tug on it, and make it 0. And that puts it right through the center of that. Okay, so we can go ahead and when we save that, when we come back in here, and we come back into this assembly, you can see that right there, okay? And what we can do is when we constrain this, we can go back to our angle, we can go back to our angle constraint and our directed angle. And this is where you got to go zoom in a little bit with it. We just select that and we select that and we apply that. And then as you, and we would do that on the other end as well. So we're just going to go in here. We're going to get, notice that the arrow is going up. Okay, and you've got to attach it to the piece that it's going to crank with. We're going to apply. And then when we close that out and we go back to home here, all right, and we turn, now you can see that work plane turning with it, right? So we have one more piece that goes on here, which is really kind of a neat piece. It's just going to be another handle that's going to go on there. So there's our little handle, and we're going to bring in 2 of these right there and right there. We're going to hit the escape key, and what we're going to do is we're going to, again, you guessed it, use an insert. So here we want that to go all the way in. Let's see if we can find that. No, we're going to have to move this up here. And let's direct that the other way. Nope, we're going to put that in just like that. And we're going to apply that. And that gives us that fancy handle. And we're going to do the same thing here. And we can actually do this here. It's got a hole going all the way through. And we're going to apply, let's see if that's working. Yep, that applies it there. And you can see these really cool handles on there. And then what we get to do is we get to go ahead and we get to play. Woo, look at that. What a lot of fun that is. Okay, so that's that part right there. We're going to do one more segment, one more video on this, and I'm going to show you actually how to animate and how to go ahead and do what we call driving constraints and actually have it run on its own. Okay, until the next video.